In this module, we'll be discussing some of the advanced features that you'll be able to manage your POs with in Seller Cloud. Now that I have the purchase order, I've set up my expenses, and I added my discounts, it's time to go ahead and manage my vendor invoice workflows. We're going to start by creating a new purchase order in Seller Cloud. Adding products, selecting the receiving warehouse. Now that we have the PO, we'll approve the PO. From here, we can start managing the invoices that are tied to the purchase order inside of Seller Cloud. We'll do this by going into the Actions tab and going into Manage Invoices. From here, we can add a new invoice into Seller Cloud. We'll do an invoice date and an invoice amount. You can link the PO to the invoice right now. However, you'll be able to link the PO and the invoice together in a later module as well. We're going to do the invoice type as PO and now add the invoice. Now, to reconcile what's being paid to what has been received, we're going to go into the PO. We're going to receive the purchase order. And by receiving the purchase order into Seller Cloud, it's going to generate what we call a receiving session. This receiving session is what we're going to use to link the invoice, the PO, and what was received to make sure that we're reconciling what was received to what we are paying our vendors for. To link the invoice to the receiving session, we're going to go into the Manage Vendor Invoices page, open up the detailed page of our invoice, and now apply that receiving session to our invoice. From here, we can now apply a payment. And now we have everything reconciled in the system against what we've received to what we have paid for this invoice. Now, not everything goes well when you're receiving in your inventory. Sometimes you get damaged products. Sometimes you have missing inventory. And in this instance, you now need to get a refund from your vendor for what you've paid them. You'll be able to create credit memos inside of Seller Cloud to go ahead and manage this workflow. To start, we're going to go into the PO. We'll go into Actions, and we'll create related credit memo. This will generate the related credit memo, which you can find attached to the PO. Going into the related credit memo, we're going to do a very similar process where we're going to go to Manage Invoices. We're going to now add a new invoice into Seller Cloud for this credit memo. And select Credit Memo as invoice type. We can find our credit memo back in the Manage POs page. And from here, we can now either ship the damaged inventory back to our vendor or remove the inventory that was received from our warehouse. This will generate another receiving session related to the credit memo, where we'll be able to go back into the Manage Vendor Invoices page, tie this to the credit memo invoice, and then once we have been paid from our vendor, apply that payment to the credit memo invoice. Now, there's a bunch of fun things you're going to be able to do with this inventory that's on a PO to help allocate inventory to different sections of what you're going to be doing when you're managing your various workflows with Seller Cloud. Things like allocating inventory from a PO to an order, allocating inventory from a PO to an FBA inbound shipment, or using your quantity on order from your POs to set up a pre-sell quantity where that inventory will now be part of your available quantity calculation, allocating that inventory to orders that are coming in. Now, to go ahead and set up where you're linking the PO to the FBA inbound shipment, you can either do this directly from the PO, or you can do it inside of the FBA inbound shipment as well, which we'll discuss in a later module regarding FBA. We'll do this where we can sync to FBA inbound shipment. From here, you can either link to an FBA inbound shipment in case we want our vendor to ship directly into FBA for us, or we can copy to an FBA inbound shipment, which will apply those products from the PO to an inbound shipment that we're going to, when we receive the PO, prep and then ship these goods directly to Amazon. Now, to link orders to your PO, you'll be able to go into your related orders and link these orders to the different POs in your Seller Cloud account. You also have the ability to pre-sell inventory from these POs. We'll start by building another PO in the system. And once the settings are enabled for you to be able to pre-sell this inventory, you'll be able to choose what inventory you want to pre-sell by going into the toolbox, going to items, clicking edit, and then selecting the SKUs and the quantity that you would like to set up as your pre-sell amount. Now this inventory is going to be added as part of your available quantity calculation. So as those orders come in, you can cross-dock them out.